The arena lights burned white and cruel. They were meant to blind prey. They were meant to entertain empires. They had never met a girl from Earth. Her name was Mara Ilyanovashy, was 17 standard years old. She stood 5 feet 4 inches tall, weighed 120 pounds. The crowd laughed when she walked out. They saw soft skin, they saw small hands, they saw dark hair tied back with a strip of torn fabric. They saw prey. The announcer spoke in a language meant to echo like thunder. The translation filled the air. Subject designation: Deathworlder. Origin: Earth. Gravity class: extreme atmosphere, toxic, by civilized measure. Survival rate: beyond acceptable threshold. The crowd quieted a little. They had heard of Earth, a myth of a planet where storms tore cities apart, where oceans swallowed coastlines, where creatures hunted in packs with forward-facing eyes, where even the smallest animals carried venom or teeth. Still Mara looked small. The first gate opened. A Trask hound rushed out for legs thick as pillars, jaw that could snap metal rods, its hide armored in plates. It charged. Mara did not scream. She did not run. She stepped forward. The hound leapt. She moved aside, fast, too fast for the cameras to follow. Cleanly her hand caught the lower jaw. Other hand struck the throat knot. Hard, precise, the cartilage collapsed. Beast choked on its own blood. It hit the sand and did not rise. The crowd made a confused sound, some laughter, some surprise. The second gate opened without ceremony. To Carol twins slithered out, Telskald each carrying hooked blades. They spread apart to flank her. Mara bent her knees, her bare feet pressed into the sand. The first twin lunged. She stepped inside the arc of the blade. Her elbow drove into its chest. A crack echoed. The second twin hissed and struck the blade, cut her arm. Blood fell bright red. Crowd roared at last. She was bleeding. Mara did not look at the wound. She grabbed the second twin by the wrist, twisted bone, snapped the blade, felt she caught it before it touched the sand. One motion across the throat, green blood sprayed. The first twin tried to rise. She drove the blade down through its skull sealants, fell 3 body as the announcer hesitated, then laughed loudly. A fluke, a lucky animal from a brutal world, released. The next 4 doors opened. 4 armored guards entered, not beasts, professionals. They carried shock pikes. Their armor gleamed with energy shields. They moved in formation. Mara wiped blood from her eyes. She rolled her shoulders. On Earth, she had trained in a gym that smelled of sweat and rubber mats. She had sparred with boys bigger than these guards. She had learned to fall and rise and strike again. Gravity on this world was lighter than home. Every movement felt easy, like fighting underwater in reverse. Guards attacked together. Blue arcs of energy snapped toward her. She Dovesand exploded around her. She rolled beneath a pike. Her foot swept behind a guard. Neither joint bent wrong. He fell. She grabbed his fallen pike, turned it, jammed it into the gap under. Another guard armed a shield flared, then failed. The current flooded his armor here. Convulsed, she ripped the weapon free to left. They adjusted tactics. One fainted high. The other aimed low. She leapt higher than any of them expected. Her knee struck the first in the helmet. The visor cracked. She landed on the second. The impact drove him flat. She took his head in both hands, twisted the sound, carried to the highest seats. The last guard tried to retreat. The crowd booed. Retreat was not part of the show. Mara threw the shock pike. It spun once. Y struck between his shoulders. He fell face first. 8 bodies lay in the sand. A clock above the arena marked the end of the first hour. The announcer was silent. No one laughed. No. Mara stood in the center, breathing steady. Blood ran down her arm. She tore a strip from her shirt, trapped it tight. The emperor watched from a high balcony. A being of pale skin and long fingers, eyes like polished stone. He leaned forward, intrigued. This was better than expected. He gestured. The handlers Below panicked, they had planned a spectacle not. A massacre, still orders were orders. Next gate opened, slowly a silence stretched. From the darkness emerged a war brute 9 feet tall, muscle layered over bone like cables, metal implants along its spine. Its fists were larger than Mara. Head the crowd leaned forward. This was different, this was certain. The brute roared, the sound shook the arena. Walls, Mara felt it in her chest. And earth, she had heard thunder split the sky. She had heard buildings collapse in. Storm's noise did not scare her. The brute charged each step. A quake she ran toward it, not away. At the last second she slid between its legs. Game up behind it jumped. Her hands caught the metal implant. She climbed fast. The brute swung back, trying to grab her. She reached its neck, her forearm locked under its chin. Her other hand gripped her own wrist. She pulled not on muscle and structure. On the way the spine met the skull. The brute staggered, slammed backward into the wall. Once, twice she held on. Her vision blurred. On the third impact she shifted, drove her heel into the base of its scully. Precise point. The implants sparked. A nervous system misfired. The giant froze in, fell. The ground shook as it hit Mara. Rolled free, stood. The clock marked the second hour. No one cheered. The arena had gone very still. The guard corridor outside the pit, a group of soldiers waited for the signal to enter. They stared at the screens. At the girl standing among giants. One guard swallowed another, removed his helmet. No one moved toward the door. Signal light flashed, green, enter. They did not. Inside the arena the announcer tried to speak. His voice cracked, he cleared his throat. By imperial decree, the challenge continues. The emperor raised one finger, changed his mind. His stalled eyes turned upward. Voice carried without amplification. The girl looked up, their gazes. Matu. Are not pray, he said. You are a weapon. Mara said nothing. Her chest rose and fell. I offer you a place in my guard. The emperor continued. Rich's status, safety thirdus, safety hung in the air. Mara thought of earth, of storms, of cities rebuilt after every disaster, of people who fought not because they loved war but because they refused to kneel. She looked around the arena at the bodies, at the blood soaking into foreign sand. Then she looked back at the emperor. Send me home, she sighed. A murmur rippled through the stands. The emperor tilted his head. Whom you would return to that Deathworld dish, answered without hesitation. He studied her for a long moment. Him her eyes he saw no fear, only resolve. Airy while he said at last, prepare her ship. No one argued, no one wished to test her again. The gates opened. Mara walked out of the arena under her own power. The guards stepped aside. None met her eyes in the docking bay. A small vessel waited. She paused at the ramp, turned back. Once thousands of alien faces stared at her, not laughing, not cheering, watching, learning. She raised her uninjured hand, not in salute, not in threat, just a simple human gesture. Then she boarded. Hours later, the arena sand was still stained up. Emperor sat alone. He replayed the footage again and again. A small girl from a world of storms. 8 kills in 1 hour. War brute in the next. He issued a quiet decree that Night Earth was to be removed from the conquest list. No fleets, no scouts, no probes. Some worlds were not worth the cost. Somewhere in the dark between stars, a ship carrying a tired girl turned toward a blue planet that bred survivors. On Earth the gravity would feel heavy again, the air thick, the storms loud. Mara would step onto soil that tried to kill her every day. On she would smile, because on a Deathworld was home. Asterisk.